Hi there. Thank you very much, Christine. I really appreciate the time that everyone is taking with us today. Today we're going to cover an introduction to Virtru, which is our product that makes it very, very easy to send secure HIPAA-compliant email. So I'm just going to give a few overview slides, and then we're going to go into a demo and take your questions. So encryption has become a very hot topic in the medical and dental community recently. So why? So for three reasons. Patient privacy, so keeping patients' information secure. Convenience, because more and more people, patients and other providers, are asking for their information to be transmitted electronically. And the easiest way, the way people expect today, is on email. And the third area is around HIPAA enforcement. So the government is becoming increasingly active in enforcing HIPAA against smaller and smaller practices. So all of these three reasons are what drove Virtru to the dental and medical market, is serving the small to medium-sized practice that has these concerns and today doesn't have a great solution. The problem is that traditionally, solutions for secure email have either been very complex or very expensive. And we've set out to do something a little different. So in the past, you would have needed to set up a separate email account apart from your normal email to send secure messages. You would have had to install complex software. Your patients or your recipients would have had to log into a complicated portal to read messages, and they would have had to set up a new account and remember a username and password, and it would have been a hassle. And finally, it would have been very costly from the standpoint of both setup and monthly charges as well as administration. And this really just isn't practical for small to mid-sized practices. So we've really focused our product on making it very, very easy for both senders and receivers. And you'll see in just a few minutes when Rob does a demo how easy it is. But our fundamental belief is that in order to protect your sensitive information, the products you use have to be very easy to use. Because if they're easy to use, then you'll have wide adoption in your practice and your information will be secure. If they're complicated, people will find ways to go around the systems, and you will have lost the benefit. So what is Virtru? Virtru has made really sophisticated military-grade encryption with the ease of use of a consumer product. So you get that protection as soon as you begin composing a message, all the way through to where your recipient opens it. But you don't need any special skills. You don't need any complicated software. You'll see in a few minutes you can install it literally in minutes using your existing email. So if you're on Gmail, that's what you'll continue to use. You'll just have the ability to send securely. It's HIPAA compliant, and you can send to anyone, anywhere. So without your recipients having to log into a portal or install anything, they'll be able to read your secure messages or your secure files. And the way we've done this is by making it very easy to integrate with the tools that you use every day. So if you're using a mobile device, we work with iOS and Android. We can work directly within the Chrome or Firefox browser for webmail. And for many people who use Outlook, we integrate directly into Outlook as an extension. So right within the tools that you're already using. So where can you use Virtru? We did a webinar earlier and there were a lot of questions about where Virtru could be used. So before we get to the demo, I'll tell you, you can use Virtru with Microsoft Outlook 2010 and 2013 for virtually any email service. So if you're on Outlook, you're good. If you want to use a browser, we support Chrome and Firefox for the major webmail services. So for Gmail, for Yahoo Mail, for Outlook.com, for Hotmail, we support those within Chrome and Firefox. And then on mobile, we support your Apple iOS devices and your Android devices. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rob McDonald, and he'll give a little bit of a demo of the product. And then we'll go back and do a couple more slides and do some Q&A. So Rob, I'm just going to make you the presenter.
That's great.
Christine, you might have to make Rob the presenter.
Okay, there we go. So I really appreciate the opportunity to demonstrate our product to everybody today. And what I'd like to do before we dig into the use is kind of talk about, just expand on the platform a bit that Charles already did a great job going into, so everyone understands how it works. So there's really two components to the system. One component is the hosted system, the service that we're delivering from our hosted platform. And that system is what is responsible for creating the secure policies. A secure policy in our world is a representation of the sender and the authorized recipient that you're allowing to decrypt that content. And that policy also represents some additional attributes like disable forwarding. Disable forwarding is a feature that allows you to not allow those first-line recipients to send to any tertiary party. And expiration. Expiration is what you would expect it to be, but functionally it says after this period of time, that recipient that you had previously authorized will no longer be able to authenticate and decrypt that content. So that hosted system is what maintains that policy, authenticates senders and recipients, and protects that key. And then the second half of the platform is the piece that gets installed on your system. So in your browser via an extension, in Outlook via a plugin, and on the iPhone and Android as a native application, right? So once we're installed on that client platform that you're using, we do some very interesting things. We integrate deeply into the user experience you're used to. So here we're looking at, I'm going to show both Outlook and Gmail here, but we'll start off with Gmail. So here we are in a compose window. So I click compose like I'm going to send an email. I have the plugin installed, as you can see, and we hook directly into that compose window. So your users, you don't have to leave your normal experience to send a secure email. I'm just going to compose an email. So I'll come in here and I'll toggle the solution on, a simple toggle switch. Once toggled on, we have clear visual indicators that you're inside a secure session now. And now that you've toggled this on, none of this encrypted payload, none of this secure email will leave this computer unencrypted. And that's very important. So that means as I'm typing this, you can be assured that at every point after this send, wherever that email is stored or wherever it is in transit, it's encrypted. So it's encryption at rest and encryption in transit. So as a user, I'm just composing an email. I'm putting a recipient on here. I'm typing a body as you would normally expect. We've taken over the send button, so now it says secure send, so you don't have to go anywhere else to execute this workflow. You have a little context menu here where you can also set some attributes that we just talked about, disable forwarding and expiration. And once you've created that, you just click send. So now that I've finished that email and I've sent it, I'm on to doing what I normally do, right? I did not have to leave that experience to do anything else. On the recipient end, just to show that workflow real quick, here's another browser window. This is the recipient account that I sent that email to. When that recipient, in this case, has the plugin installed, just to show that what that's like, when that recipient clicks into that email, we're going to attempt to authenticate them, right? We're going to authenticate them via the authentication protocol supported by their platform. So in this case, this is Gmail. So when I click into this email, we're going to reach over to Google in this case, validate this user as authenticated, and validated that they're in that authenticated browser session. And we do all that in the background. So this is what the user gets to experience. Inside their inbox, inside the message, they were able to authenticate and consume that content without leaving this browser session. So that's ultimately going to drive adoption rate and drive interaction with you, the provider. A really important aspect of encryption is that it is easy enough to use, otherwise people will circumvent it, right? So let's say, for example, in this instance, that this email that I sent was incorrect. I wasn't supposed to send it to that recipient, right? Either the wrong data to the wrong recipient, or autocorrect or autocomplete put in the wrong recipient, and I click send, but I've secured it, right? So it's encrypted, but I need to pull that back. It's an important responsibility of sending an email like that, or if there's an accident, right? So again, back to the design paradigm, back to what we discussed earlier. We want to be where the user works, right? So from my sending account here, you'll notice, if I go into sent mail, naturally that's where I'm going to think that email exists. There's a couple of places, but this is where you can do it. Click into that email. You'll now notice there's a new contextual control. So I didn't have to go to some other third-party system to find that email that I sent securely in order to pull it back, right? But in this case, you'll notice here on the left is the sent mail item that I sent. On the right is the user that has authenticated and consuming that email. And now I need to pull the email back. I need to make sure they no longer have access to it. So if I click revoke, as fast as that policy can be updated, remember, we're managing policy, we're authenticating senders and recipients, and we're updating those policies in perpetuity. So as soon as I can update that policy, I click revoke there. As fast as that policy can be updated, this recipient has been, the ability for them to decrypt that email and consume that content has been removed, right? So it's a very granular control of your data wherever it has gone in perpetuity of that message lifecycle. So that means after I've sent it secure, I can still revoke it. And because we're authenticating those users, right? We're updating policies, not destroying anything. You can also re-enable access. If you re-enable access, that user can come back into their inbox, click in, which makes them re-authenticate. We discussed earlier. They've re-authenticated, and now they can consume that content again. Very powerful, very in line with your normal productivity workflow, right? Over here, I know there's probably some Outlook users in the crowd today, right? So I want to show that experience. This is Outlook 2013, also supported in Outlook 2010. I compose a new email like you've composed a million times. You can start typing that message as I normally do, no different. And there's a little toggle switch again. So when I click Virtru on, I've now turned on that message, right? I've now turned on security for that message. I can come up here in the ribbon as well, disable forwarding. Come up here as well, set an expiration. And I can also do something that's really important. And we'll talk about this now. It's a good time. We call it personalized introduction. When you create a personalized introduction, it's a little message that we append to the top of the email that goes unencrypted. It's a great place to add a company-specific banner that adds validity to the message. Anyone receiving an encrypted email for the first time, they want to be sure that it's coming from the right sender. So you can add a message here. You notice here this is the default message. I'll just go ahead and keep it at that, and I'll show you what that looks like. And then once you've done that, once you've composed your email, you do the exact same thing you normally do. You click send. It's going to button up that secure policy and send that out, right? So now let me hop over and show you what that first-time recipient experience is like. So now we're in yet another browser window. This time, no plugin installed. So this is going to be representative of the first-time recipient. So I've never sent a Virtru secured email to a recipient. Now I have. This is what they will see. So when you click into that email, this is the exact same email that we've sent earlier, but now there's no plugin installed to consume this content authenticate the user, exchange the key, and decrypt the content, right? So this browser is not aware of Virtru. So this is what they see. They see that personalized introduction that I showed you earlier. Really important here. I'm a recipient. I'm reading this. I see it adds validity to it that you've added a message, and they see open and secure reader. So secure reader is a hosted web application that allows your recipients to authenticate and consume that encrypted content without installing any software, right? So when you click this link, this is the difference. You click it, it's going to open a new browser tab or open a browser tab, right? We're going to go through the authentication process, and they're going to be able to consume and reply still end-to-end. We're not performing any decryption in the middle. All the decryption happens on the recipient system. So when I click into this, they're brought to the secure reader main page, and here they're going to be able to select who they are. So the important thing here, just to kind of describe this process just a little bit, is that we'll list the first 5 recipients here just for convenience. If there's more, you can't list too many, you don't have the screen real estate, they'll just type it in. But in this case, I'm going to click who I am. So they've got a couple options depending on the platform they're on. In this case, Gmail, so I can use that authentication protocol we discussed earlier to make it even more seamless. Or I can use a one-time password, so we'll create a one-time password for them. This is for all the other webmail systems the recipients may be on. So we support any recipient. So if they click into their authentication capability, we're going to reach out to Google, validate that this session here is authenticated and that they're in that session. And if those checks pass, we're going to let them consume that secure content in the browser without installing any software, right? So what I was able to do there was demonstrate what your first-time recipients would experience. Now, if they're on a supported platform like Gmail, Yahoo, Outlook.com, or Microsoft Outlook on their desktop, they are more than welcome to download and install that plugin. They do not even have to click into a new browser tab. There are no limitations on the number of recipients you have installing the software. They'll have access to the limited feature set. They won't be able to revoke and expire and all that, but they'll be able to converse with you in their inbox. A little more seamless. So they can install if they want to. If not, they can click reply and communicate with you from the secure reader. And so just like before, if I come into my sent mail in Outlook and I click on this email here that I just sent, you'll notice up here are some new controls, just like in the Gmail interface. You can change your forwarding policy, you can change the expiration, or you can just click revoke. And when you revoke that email, just as the browser that had the plugin installed, in this case the user is a secure reader, that revocation is enforced across all modalities, across all client platforms the same way. So you have a similar user experience across your internal user base and a very similar experience across your recipient user base. Very important because that means you have to condition or train your internal users and recipients the same way. You're not having to have multiple communications about different possibilities. We keep the user experience very similar. Also very important for adoption rate, right? So in addition to that, what you will gain access to is what we call the dashboard. So company-wide, inside your organization, no matter how many users there are, you have access to a dashboard. That dashboard can be thought of as an aggregated view of the secure policies created in your organization. So if I come up here with admin mode on, if I'm the admin, right, and I come in and I click all emails, I will be able to see those secure policies. So this is not the unencrypted content. This is the policy we talked about. The authorized senders, the authorized recipients. We do include the subject line so you can search and make that easier. But this is not the encrypted content. This is a way for you to click into an email, a secure policy, excuse me. That one's already been deactivated. Sorry, let's click into one that hasn't been. I'll click into a secure email, a secure policy, and you'll see here that I have the same abilities before where I can update the policy. I can revoke single individuals, and I'll show you why that's important here in just a second. And I can save those policy changes. So let's go down to an email that's been forwarded. Here's a good example. In your dashboard, you'll see these blue icons, and that means that an email that had initially been sent to first-line recipients has been forwarded out. So what's important today? Detection is important today. If I send an email and I've let data go, I want to know where that email, where that data has gone. More importantly, where has that information gone, right? Detection of that and closing the loop or applying a corrective action to where that data has gone is very important to detect early and to be able to apply that action to it. So in this case, I click into this secure policy, and you'll notice here that in this case, I sent an email to these individuals, and this person forwarded that out to a third party. So I initially did not have disable forwarding on. So you can come in and click revoke to the individual that's incorrect, assert disable forwarding so no more forwarding can happen. So you've closed the loop on your compliance requirements there in the case of an accidental third-party forward, right? So you detect the data, detect where it's gone, validate that recipient, and revoke if necessary. So our interface allows you to quickly and intuitively see where that data has gone, how it got there, and lets you apply action to it, again, for the life of that message, right? So at a pretty good high level, that is the system. I hope that was beneficial to everyone, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, that was great, Rob. Thanks. I've got a few questions here that have shown up in the question window. So if you have questions, please do type them into the window of the WebEx tool, and we will get them answered. First question we've got is, what about Hotmail? Does Virtru work with Hotmail?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we absolutely do. So we're really lucky in that. So as these webmail providers begin to bring their products forward, they begin to support more of these authentication protocols, and Outlook.com or Hotmail, Microsoft's webmail version of Gmail, right, does support that. And so with Chrome or Firefox, you can install the plugin and use Hotmail, absolutely, as well as Outlook. So Hotmail also supports IMAP or POP, which you can use with Outlook as well.
Okay. The next question is there a reason why you would want to toggle it on or off, or just, have to turn it on with each email?
Yeah, no, and that's a great question. We would like to think. So one of the major pushes behind our company from a principal perspective is lower the burden of use. How can we get encryption to a point where secure by default makes the most sense, right? So our ease of use from a sender perspective and our ease of use from a recipient perspective is a constant focus for us. And we hope to get to a point where we don't have to answer that question. You can just secure every email by default. And we feel like our ease of use is to that level. But ultimately, it's up to the organization, right? So if you have a group within your company that would be considered subject matter experts in their field, and they have been properly trained to identify PII or PHI, and you want to delegate the ability for them to turn on, turn off, you certainly can. But secure by default is also a policy that I think an organization should think about, and it's one that I think is very valid. But either way is fine.
Okay. The next question is the expiration date that you set one day from the date the email is sent, or one day from the date the email was opened?
So it's 1 day from being sent. That's a really good question, and I think that we will take that information back. But today what that is when I set an expiration of 3 days, it's 3 days from when I click send.
Okay. So along that same line, what happens if a recipient doesn't check email that often? Is it beneficial to give them, say, 3 to 5 days?
Sure, and that's the beauty of the system. So if we'll come into one of these policies, like this one here, where I had set an expiration before. Oh, it's wrong side, sorry. I think I set an expiration on this. Let's take a look. Yeah, I believe I did. So let's say I've sent that message. I set an expiration of 2 days. That was too aggressive. And the user comes back a week later and they click the email and they can't authenticate because clearly it's expired, and they engage you and say, hey, I can't access this, you can simply go into your sent mail. You don't have to send a new email. Go into your sent mail for that message, drop down this box, and click to reset your expiration. Push it out another 5 days, and it'll tell you there when that is. Push it out another 6 days. You can change that policy at any time. So if you set it 2 days, and they don't come in until 4, you can push it out another 3 days past that. You have complete control over that policy as the sender.
Okay. So do you have to put an expiration date on it?
No, absolutely not. And that's a good question. I'm sorry I didn't make that clear earlier. That's my fault. So when you come in to compose a new email, as we're doing here, and you turn on that toggle switch, that's all you have to do. You don't have to do anything else. I can come in here and type this message, and I can just click Secure Send. There is no requirement to do these 2 policy options. Those are just optional, and they're just there if you need them. So I click Secure Send here. That email is gone with no expiration. Now, to the same point for the previous question, I've just sent that email. So I went into Sent Mail, and I open up this email down here. Here it is. You'll notice when I do the drop-down, there's none of the policies set. So if I send an email with no expiration, or if I send an email with disable forwarding turned off, I can come in and add an expiration. So just because you don't set it from the beginning doesn't mean you can't set it. And it also, if you need to send it without an expiration, that's fine as well. It's completely optional and up to you and the specific use case that you're sending the email for.
Okay. Lots of questions coming in, lots of good questions. Next one is around the Apple OS. Safari and Apple Mail are not supported, correct? On Macs, only Gmail and Chrome or Firefox are supported?
I'll dig into that just a little bit, but yes, in essence, Safari, no plugin support for there. Your recipients can use Safari, so the secure reader we showed earlier, they can use that. Any modern browser, from the recipient perspective, this secure reader we talked about, they can use Safari. But to send secure, you need a plugin, right? You need to be on a supported platform. So today, we do not have a plugin for Safari, and we do not have a plugin for Apple Mail. So on the Mac, which I'm on, if you are using Gmail, Yahoo, Outlook.com, Hotmail, any of these webmail providers that we have deep integration with, you would need to use Chrome or Firefox. Those are the 2 platforms that we have a plug-in for on the Mac. On Windows, Chrome, Firefox, or Microsoft Outlook. I should have said that.
Okay. And the next question is, do you have to turn the plugin on for every single mail, or is there a way to leave that function on at all times?
Yeah, so we're going to remember, so in this case, we're going to remember that last option. So when you click toggle on, toggle off there, that last option, when I turned it on, so you'll notice there, let's compose again, the solution automatically turned on. So that's one way to do that. But you can also set policies that enforce that, right? So for some employees in your company, if you're sending to an outside recipient, you can set a policy that would mandate encryption to be turned on. You have a lot of options here that gives you the control over that, but you can enforce it if you should want to do that for your company.
Okay. And the next question is, if you send someone an email and the recipient doesn't have Virtru, after they've confirmed security on each additional email, will they have to go through that all again?
Good question, and there's 2 experiences. That's a great question. So one experience is that recipient can install the plugin, right? So if they're on a Chrome, Firefox, and they're on a webmail provider, or they're using Outlook and they install the plugin, they've only got to do that one time. So once a recipient has done that one time, they don't have to do anything else past that but open the email you send them, right? But if they're a recipient, like we discussed earlier here, that is either on an unsupported platform or doesn't want to install the software, doesn't want to install the plugins, which is quick, by the way. The plugins take less than 30 seconds to install. The browser requires no admin privileges. But let's say that they are that recipient that doesn't want to install anything, and they want to use the secure reader that we talked about. So they want to come in here, they want to click into an email, open in secure reader. if they want to come into this experience, then they have one option. Let me just log out. If you'll notice there, I didn't have to do it then. Once you have your session cached, it'll be cached for a period of time. But when they come into Open and Secure Reader, they'll have the ability to say, remember me. You see this here. Remember me allows you to cache that initial authentication for a period of time in the browser so that they don't have to do it every single message. That cache will expire. I think today, I'd have to look, I apologize, I don't have this number, I think it's 30 days. And then they do the authentication again. But this allows them to communicate with you in the Secure Reader without having to go through this process every single time, just every 30 days.
Okay. A question about platform usage. So if their office uses GoDaddy Web Space, does it work with that?
If using GoDaddy or an email platform like that, you would have to be using Outlook. So we do not. So in this case, just kind of go through this just a little bit. In this case, this Chrome browser has Virtru installed, right? For this to work in the browser, you have to be using an email platform, in this case Gmail, that we support. So Gmail, Yahoo, Outlook.com, Hotmail, these webmail providers, we integrate into the browser. If you're on another webmail provider or email provider like GoDaddy, this browser plugin won't integrate with that from the browser. But you can use Outlook with any of those providers. So GoDaddy, for example, the email system supports POP and IMAP. So if you're using that and you use Outlook to interface with that email, you can certainly install the plugin and work with our product from Outlook.
Okay. The next question is around the cost, which we haven't quite touched on yet. We might want to bring up that slide. So it's how do we get started? Is the billing integrated with NEA? I will tell you that the billing is actually done through Virtru. Your registration is actually handled through the Virtru site via a link that is nea-fast.com/secure-email. That contains a link to the registration page where you'll be able to get the special promotional pricing, which is the $15 a month per practice, per facility ID, I should say, for up to 15 users. So you can have 15 different email addresses for users in your office using Virtru for $15 a month. And by signing up through that secure link, you also get the option to have a month free. So if you sign up, you can try it, play around with it for 30 days before you even get the first bill for your $15 a month. So that's how the pricing structure works. If you have a need for more than 15 users, we ask that you send us a message at marketing@nea-fast.com, and we will work with you and the Virtru team on some enterprise level pricing based on your specific requirements. But I do want to just reinforce that it is $15 a month per location, which is your facility ID. So when you register on the website, it'll ask you for your facility ID. So it is 15 users per facility ID. Okay, so and the next question is there any support for AOL mail?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and similar answer to the GoDaddy. So AOL represents an email provider where you can get the email in two ways. One is via their webmail interface. So you open a browser, go to the webmail interface for AOL, or you can use Outlook to get your email from AOL, right? So with AOL, to use Virtru, you would need to use Outlook. So if you're using Outlook to check and send your email through AOL, you could absolutely use Virtru to support that email address.
Oh. Are emails secured if they're sent through Eaglesoft or Patterson if our default email is Outlook?
So that's a great question, and I would love to handle that. Like if there's any questions like this, then maybe we could do some follow-up calls with them to talk about that. Mm-hmm. Every practice management system handles that integration a little bit differently. If, in this case, that Eaglesoft bridge opens Outlook and allows you to append some additional information, for example, then yes, you can simply initiate the send, it'll open up a compose window, attach that X-ray or diagnostic imaging file that you want to send, and then turn Virtru on, right? If the bridge, however, automates the sending of that functionality, that's something we should definitely discuss, so that way we can figure out that specific use case. And that's a good example of maybe reaching out to us after the webinar so that we can look at your exact scenario.
Okay, and that would be a similar answer for another question that's out there, if it works with DEXIS imaging and Dentrix. So
yeah, and I believe Dentrix and Eaglesoft, their mail handlers are very similar. But yeah, I would have the exact same answer to that, because the configurations are still a little bit different, even though they handle it somewhat the same. So I'd ask everybody just to send us an email, let's schedule some time to chat, and we see if we can work through that scenario for you.
Okay. And next question is, does it also work with Yahoo?
Yes, absolutely. So Yahoo is an example of a email provider we discussed earlier that does support authentication protocols that we can integrate in deeply with. So like Gmail, Yahoo, Outlook.com, Hotmail, those webmail providers, you can use both the browser with the extension and Outlook with the extension. So with Yahoo, you can use both Outlook and the webmail interface with Virtru for Yahoo.
Okay, great. So can attachments be sent with these emails?
Yeah, absolutely. So if I come into an email here, let's demonstrate that so I can show you how easy that is. Compose an email like I normally do. Virtru Secure is turned on. I click to attach an email. Let's attach this PowerPoint file, and I don't have to do anything differently. So effectively, when you are composing an email here and you want to send an attachment secure, once it's turned on, you attach that file like you attach any file normally. So what we do is we encrypt that content as it's being uploaded. So in this case, Gmail, as it's being uploaded, we're encrypting it. So that attachment is secure exactly like the body of your email is secure as soon as you turn that Virtru plug-in, as soon as you turn the toggle switch on. So as soon as you turn the toggle switch on and you start typing an email or attaching a file, you are securing that content. You'll notice there's a little TDF extension here. That TDF, Trusted Data Format, is our encrypted wrapper for any content type. Whether you're sending a Word file, text file, DICOM image, doesn't matter. Any file format is supported with our platform for encryption. Absolutely. Okay.
So the next question is, with several email addresses in our office, do we purchase the product separately or for each email? As I said, the single license that we're providing of the $15 a month covers up to 15 email accounts, so 15 users within a practice can access and use Virtru for that $15 monthly fee. The next question is there a size limitation? How many gigs are allowed for messages? And
no,
oh, sorry, it's a two-part question. Go ahead and answer that first part, and then I'll give you the second part.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I do apologize. So we are just encrypting the content, right? So if your email provider has some kind of limitation, we would comply with that limitation, right? So it's largely dependent upon that. Our system is capable of attachment limits above and beyond your MTA limit, right? So as we continue to expand upon our managed file transfer features and encryption capabilities, we'll be able to give you even more ability to send large files through your existing email. And that's kind of the point, right? Securing email to their inbox, irregardless of the content type. That way that recipient doesn't have to go somewhere else to get their content. And you said there was a second part, so I didn't mean to cut you off there.
There is. And it says 128-bit encryption is the current requirement. What does Virtru offer?
We support 256-bit AES is the algorithm.
Okay. So what about Outlook 2007? Is there any support for that?
No, unfortunately there's not. So the cutoff is 2010 and forward. So So 2007 to 2010, there was a change in the way the plugin works, and we only support 2010 and forward.
Okay. Is there a cost per attachment? I think that's more related to kind of the way that we do our claim attachments. There's not a specific cost per attachment or email that you send. It really is for the one set of accounts that you're buying for the office. For those 15 accounts, it's that one-time fee, correct?
That's right. And just to expand on that just a little bit, there are no device limitations either. So send as many emails as you want to as many recipients as you want, with as many attachments as you want, and from as many devices as you want. The only limitation is the mailbox. So if you have a sender, they represent an email address, that's one license. Send as much as you want from as many devices as you want with that license's account. That's the only restriction.
Okay. Can you disable forwarding as a default when creating the emails instead of just looking at the dashboard and adjusting there?
Yeah, that's a great point, and it's something that's been brought up by our user base, and it will likely be make it into future releases. But today, there is no policy setting to assert disable forwarding by default, but our system's entirely capable of it. So I would fully expect additional policy attribute enforcement points like that in the future.
Okay. Is there a way to deploy the plugin via group policy?
Yeah, indeed. That's a great question. So there's a couple of ways to do that. If you're using Outlook, we have a per machine pre-login MSI for deployment. So you can use group policy to push that MSI per machine. And that'll enable it for all AD profiles on that computer. With the browser plugin, Google has allowed for two things. If you're using managed Chrome inside your company, you can use the managed Chrome interface. Or if you're not using managed Chrome, via Active Directory, you can push a registry entry via group policy that will tell Chrome to force installation of that plugin. So those are both ways you can automate the deployment of the software.
Okay. So another question around Outlook. Does Virtru work with Outlook 2003?
No. So 2010 forward. So 2007, 2003, and 2000 are not supported. So you would need to upgrade to 2010 as a minimum.
Okay. So with regular Firefox updates, does Virtru continue to work smoothly?
That's a great question, and we have spent a good part of 3 years developing a release schedule and QA testing policy internally that allows us to deliver fast releases and compliant releases. And so far, we have not encountered any issue with Chrome or Firefox updates that we have not either taken into consideration or been able to correct very rapidly. So we had a very mature and stable release model to keep that from being an issue.
Okay. So can you send a PDF, especially with X-rays, which is what a lot of practices send?
Yeah, absolutely. So we will support any file type. So it doesn't matter whether it's a raw .com image or that image exported to PDF, Word doc, Excel. It does not matter. Any file type possible will allow you to send it securely. So if you can attach it, we can encrypt it.
And to be clear, if you send it as a PDF file, for example, it's going to be received as a PDF file as well, correct?
That's right, absolutely. So that recipient will have that encrypted content in their inbox, right? Only after they authenticate and validate who they are will they be able to decrypt and view that PDF. So we secure that content at rest, wherever it's at, and they have to authenticate before they do that. So once they receive it, it will be a PDF, but only after authentication. They have to verify who they are before they'll be able to get access to that encrypted content.
Okay. And kind of along the same lines, if a recipient is sent an X-ray in JPEG format, they would download it as JPEG format, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Post-authentication, they sure would have access to that JPEG format. Absolutely. And for those common file types like PDF and JPEG, we make it even easier by providing an in-browser viewer if they're using Secure Reader, so they can gain access with even fewer clicks. Absolutely.
Okay. So here's a question that's kind of interesting. Can the attachments be saved to a received computer, and can they open it later?
So can you say it one more?
What happens if you disable access, if you revoke access to a file that's got an attachment? If they've already downloaded it, do they still have access to the PDF, or does it remove access to the file that's been downloaded?
Yeah, great. Now I understand it, so I appreciate the clarification. Great question, 2 answers. One answer is today we do allow the recipient the ability to decrypt and save the unencrypted version, pull it out of their email system. So in the event where they've validated who they are, they've authenticated, they decrypt the content, they will have the option to save the original file on their system. So now the chain of custody is on their end. They've got the content. The original email is still secured, but they're able to pull that attachment out. Yeah. So future releases will allow for more restricted control over that, disabling their ability to save the attachment anywhere. Unlikely to be a common use case scenario, but it's something that you should be aware of for the future if you choose to go forward with our product, knowing that we'll have that ability later.
Okay. Is the sender notified when the email has been opened by the recipient?
Yeah, so that's a good question as well. We've got a lot of feedback, and I would love to hear from this crowd. This is a really good use case scenario for this crowd. We've got a lot of feedback from users saying, hey, I would like to have a visual alert of when the recipient has authenticated and consumed that content. Today, we're logging all that. So we know when that recipient has authenticated. We know when they have decrypted. We know when they have viewed. Because we know all these things because we have to authorize it for them to decrypt the content, right? There's actual cryptographic operations going on. But what we don't do today is expose to their sender those timestamps, those timelines when that happens. So we've got a lot of feedback about that, and I would love to hear from this crowd how important that is to you, because we are working on that ability to do what we call a read receipt, but it's not available right now.
Okay. I'll send a message out to everyone. If you guys want to respond, we will log that information.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. That would be fantastic.
Okay. And the next question, is there a contract to sign up, or can we cancel at any time? That actually is going to be... Go ahead.
Christine, did you have an answer? I mean, you were answering the processing stuff earlier. Did you want to go over that?
The registration, actually, which you do on the Virtru page, has you accept terms and conditions. Those terms and conditions are what you agree to at the beginning. There's not a contract per se as far as you signing and sending anything in, but you can cancel at any time. It's a month-to-month agreement that you're signing. So if you sign up for it and you do the 30 days free and you do another couple of months and you decide it's for whatever reason, maybe it's not for you, you can cancel that at any time because you are paying on a monthly basis. Okay. Let me go up and got a bunch of questions here. Some of these we've already answered. So how long does the data in the dashboard remain available? I'm assuming that may mean... Go ahead.
Yeah, no, there is no expiration. So this data here, where you can click in and revoke and update these policies, there is no expiration of this. This stays here in perpetuity for pro members, for paying members. Yep.
Right. And is there training offered after registration?
So what we have provided, and I think, Christine, you guys have this on the main website as well. There's an FAQ. I don't know if this is posted up here. But in that FAQ, which maybe we can send out a link afterward if that's okay, Christine, we have a number of very useful tutorials. Video tutorials, so you can walk through the product visually or in real time. Screenshotted tutorials to walk you through various operations, and text-based tutorials. So all of those are immediately available to you and your staff, as well as recipients if you want to send along some information to them so that they can get onboarded quicker.
And also, I will add to that that once you sign up as you sign up, you're the administrator, and as you provide the additional email accounts and sign those folks up under your account, everyone will get an email, a registration email, that tells them they now have access to Virtru. And in that email, it tells them and tells you as the admin what you need to do to set it up. It's a pretty quick, I want to say 4-step process without having it right in front of me, but it really goes through it in detail, and it's a pretty simple process. And it also has links to the help resources if you should need any assistance with that.
Yeah, really good point, Christine. I did forget about that. You will get an immediate email walking you through the process. Every installation, whether it's a browser or Outlook, is very fast. Doesn't require a lot of decision parameters. It's next, finish. So there's not a lot of options to really have to make a decision on. It's very fast.
Okay. There's a question asking if there's a registration fee. There's not a registration fee. It is just the monthly fee. So once you sign up, and if you sign up now for the first 30 days, you can use the system for free, and then you get your $15 a month bill 1 month out. So there's no separate registration fee for it, though. And as of right now, there's no expiration date on the $15 a month pricing. Right now, we're looking at it as an annual price for this, not necessarily an annual $15 a year annually price, but a price that we're going to be holding on and maintaining for the product. We have no plans to change that at this time. So $15 a month is a great deal. It's $1 a user. If you've got a larger practice, and if you need some enterprise pricing for beyond 15 users, as I said, you can email us at marketing@nea-fast.com, and I'll be adding that information in the follow-up email to the webinar as well. You'll get a couple of different resources for links in that email. Let me look through. We've got a lot of questions.
That's great.
So a lot of them are around specific, wanting to know if it works with their specific practice management systems. As I said, if you shoot us your information, I'll make sure that that's posted in the post-webinar information as to where to send that information. We'll make sure that we reach out to you and get in contact with you regarding the different systems. So we'll address that on an individual basis, because that would be a very, very timely conversation here. Let's see, back to some of these. So the recipient only has to use a password once for the life of the email relationship. Is that the case?
Well, it depends. So if the recipient installs the plugin, if they can, they've only got to install it once. And from that point forward, they don't have to do anything else, right? At that point, we'll authenticate them in the background each and every time, transparent to them. If, however, they can't install the plugin or don't want to, and they want to use the secure reader, which remember is the link, this email here where they click the link, open the tab. If they do that, they're allowed to check a box that says remember me, and we'll cache that authentication credential, that one-time password, the authentication session, I believe for 30 days. I'll validate, and then at the end of that period of time, they'll click the link and check the box one more time, right? So we can't, using the secure reader, we can't cache it forever. We don't want to expose that authentication forever. We want to scope it a bit, and then they can click it the next time up into that 30 days, and then they just have to authenticate again, right? So still very easy, but with Secure Reader, there is a period of time there where it'll expire, and you got to do it one more time.
Okay. So we've got about 5 more minutes. I've got a few more questions. I'm going to try and get out here really quickly.
Fantastic.
So do we have to list all of the users at registration, at the time of registration?
So that's a good question. Yeah. So administratively, from your admin dashboard, you can add other users, right? So if I come into here, your dashboard, the users will indicate the users inside your organization. From here, so you can add another user if you forgot to do so. But to make it easier on the initial onboarding process, it would be better if you list them all there just so everyone's getting the same welcome message at the same time. If you want to do a kind of phased approach, of course, you can do that and add them after the fact, but it's ultimately up to you.
Okay. Can the dashboard list be printed?
This list, I assume this list here, right? So you can come in and just print this page. So if I come in and just say print, you can get a listing of this, of course. We don't have any special inbuilt print functionality, but we do expose this to the browser to be printed should you want to.
Okay. Is there an operating system requirement, or is it dependent on browser only?
So for the browser only, right? So for Outlook, 2010 and 2013, and .NET 4.5. So .NET 4.5 has been supported on Windows 7 and up. So if you're on Windows 7 and up, XP is no longer supported by Microsoft at all. So Windows 7 and up support .NET 4.5, and you can use Outlook 2010 and 2013. On the browser, again, it's just Chrome or Firefox. It doesn't really matter.
Okay. I think we've hit all of the questions, and we're right about time to wrap it up. So, and I'll share some feedback with you as far as the question you asked about the return receipt functionality. It looks like a majority of the folks indicated that that definitely would be of value to have in the system. So just some feedback for you.
That's great. And Christina, I just want to say something to that point. When you're making a decision to partner with a company to encrypt your content and secure your content, it's a big choice. So it's a long-term choice. You're making the decision to secure your content with our platform. We take your feedback very seriously. So the more feedback you can give us about, hey, this feature is useful, this is why, and we take that internally and prioritize that and roll it into the development timeline as we get more feedback. So as you can continue to use the product, provide us feedback, it will make the product better and ultimately your experience better, we hope.
Great. Okay, I have just two more questions here, and one I think is something I'm not sure that we touched on. So what if someone who was not the intended sender is added to the email string and tries to access the information? Would they be granted access? So kind of that illegal forwarding.
So a couple things. So when you compose an email, when you're composing this email and you're typing in recipients here, these recipients are added to that policy. So they're the ones that can authenticate and decrypt the content. If you come up here and say disable forwarding, and these recipients get it and read the content and they try to forward that email, that third party, that tertiary recipient, will not be able to access that, right? So it's important, if you have that need, to turn on disable forwarding so that these recipients can't send it to someone else. In addition to that, if you come into the dashboard and you click into an email with multiple recipients and you just want to revoke one of them, you can. So even if that initial email you sent it to one too many recipients, one of them was wrong, you can come into the dashboard and revoke just that one individual, and that other recipient can still gain access to it. So you have a lot of control and multiple ways to achieve that same end result.
Okay. I think it's along the same line. So even if a third party somehow gained access through the reader site and they were to add their email to the list where it has you add your email on screen there,
it wouldn't do anything for them. Yeah, it wouldn't do anything for them. And just to play that out, let's say the scenario is a third-party recipient somehow got the email, they clicked that link, went to the reader, put in their email. Well, their email is not anywhere on that validation policy. So they cannot authenticate, right? Because their email is not on that policy, and the authentication mechanism won't work. They cannot gain access to it because they can't authenticate, and two, they're not on that policy.
Okay. I think that's about all of the questions that we've got time for. We've hit most of those. If there's something specific that you have a question regarding, if you want to send it to marketing@nea-fast.com, that would be great. We'll get that question answered for you. And again, to go and sign up for the product, there's the URL on screen, www.nea-fast.com/secure-email. There's additional product information there. There are links to different videos that you can look at, white papers, just kind of see how the product is being used. and you can register straight from there and get the special pricing discount of the $15 a month for up to 15 users. Note there is it is 15 users per facility ID. So again, if you have a larger need for beyond 15 users in your account, you'll need to shoot us an email, and I'll have all those links in the follow-up email that comes after the webinar, along with a recording of the webinar that you can access and share with your teams. I want to take some time to thank Charles and Rob for your time today, and thank you all for attending. And if you have any questions, just reach out to us here at MEA NEA.
You've all been very generous. Thank you so much for taking the time today.